My name is Elena Krasnow. Welcome to Press Play, the StreetCred Podcast. I am so grateful you're here. I'm the marketing manager at StreetCred PR and your host for today's show, along with co-host and managing partner Jimmy Moock. We will break down the show into two segments: Press, where we dive into all the hard news about our guest's life and their professional goals, and then Play, where we have a little extra fun with it. Today, Jimmy and I are happy to welcome the delightful Jen Wing to the show. To give our listeners a little more background on Jen, Jen is the Chief Investment Officer and Head of Investment Solutions at turnkey asset management platform GeoWealth. She is responsible for delivering on the broad range of investment needs of the firm's clients, ensuring the platform offers access, flexibility, and investment expertise. Since joining GeoWealth, she has also built out the firm's model marketplace to 800 plus models, taking work directly off of advisors' plates. Jen draws from 15 years of experience at JP Morgan in various positions in wealth management, from investment manager, due diligence to digital product, strategy, operations, and more. She received her MBA from the Wharton School at University of Pennsylvania and received her BS in finance from the Smeal College of Business at the Pennsylvania State University. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited,
So
honestly.
excited.
Katie and I were talking about this in Chicago, and ever since I've just been like, when are we getting Jen on? So this is an exciting day.
Well,
Yeah, thanks for
we are sitting between ourselves and the holidays. So I am glad that we did not circle back on this one. We're getting it done.
Me too. Me too.
I was just going to say thanks so much for finally making time.
Jimmy's been asking me for years to come on here, and
Even before we launched the pod.
I was going to say.
I was badgering you. Yes.
Wow. Well, Jen, you are the inspiration behind this podcast. I didn't know that, but I'm so glad we finally got you on with us. We like to start off all of our episodes with a very important question, really cut straight to the core, which is, what did you have for lunch today?
Well, it's exactly 10 after 12 Eastern time. So I am having this podcast for lunch, most likely. But I did have breakfast. I'm a creature of habit. So I have the same thing every day. Two hard-boiled eggs. If anyone out there is looking for the perfect hard-boiled egg recipe, I got
Always.
you let the
So,
water boil first. I know that's a big, contentious. You put the eggs in cold, or you let the water boil first because then you can time it. 6.5 minutes exactly. Put them in a bowl of cold water, Trader Joe's everything bagel seasoning on top, and
yes,
boom, you've got some mushy deliciousness.
that
Hard
sounds
to say.
amazing.
All right. So I will not name the firm, but my former employer, they used to bring in fruit and breakfast items every day. That was the one good thing about the job. Hard-boiled eggs were a part of it. And every now and then, I would grab a paper cup in the kitchen, two hard-boiled eggs, smash it up with a fork. I was not living in your world with the everything bagel seasoning. I was just a salt and pepper guy. But I will admit that that is one hell of a tasty breakfast.
Breakfast.
I love a hard-boiled
Now,
egg.
is this something you do on the weekends also, or is that a Monday through Friday type
Monday
thing?
through Friday.
Okay.
Weekends are usually, chocolate chip pancakes with the kids.
Yes.
The consistency is my Gregory's coffee. I don't know if you have Gregory's near your homes, but it is a game changer, the cold brew. Little whole milk.
Yes.
All right.
My nutritionist friends hear that. I'm not.
Yeah. I was waiting for you to say something like almond milk or some kind of junk like that.
I'm whole milk
Me
in my
too.
coffee. I'm not afraid of it.
No.
Bring it on.
No.
Me and my double chin prefer light cream in my coffee, just so you know.
I do like a cream. I do like a cream. I stop at whole milk. But yeah, that's my breakfast. And again, the podcast for lunch. Let's see how it takes me.
Love it.
Yeah. Elena, in 2025, we're going to change the lunch question to breakfast because, you know, as you and Patrice and our 4 listeners know, nobody ever comes armed with a goddamn lunch to share.
That's not entirely true, but also there's a very important reason why we ask about lunch. And I don't know if you want to get into all that here and now today, Jimmy, but
There's not enough
maybe
time.
a story for another time.
Yeah.
Jimmy has a past life as a lunch connoisseur. Well, let's dive in, Jen. We have so much we want to discuss with you today, and just want to start off by having you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into financial services, what led you from JP Morgan to GeoWealth. Give us your spiel.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. I grew up in a log cabin, actually, out in the middle of nowhere, Connecticut. And we didn't
Cool.
have a lot of money. We didn't really talk about money, but I knew very well it wasn't growing on trees outside the house. And I knew I wasn't able to do what others were able to do, right? In terms of vacations, I wanted to go to private school. I couldn't do that when I was younger. And then I went to college, Penn State, and my eyes really opened there because I had friends that were going to Europe and they had passports. And I was just like, wow, there is so much more in the world that I didn't know about. And I think, over my lifetime, what I realized is that, money actually kind of does buy happiness to a certain extent, right?
Yeah,
And I'm just going to say it, money buys comfort and money buys experiences and travel and fun and education and frankly, health and wellness these days. And so that's how I found myself in financial services. I was in college, didn't go to college expecting to go into finance, but I wanted to learn more about the world. And I felt like I had to learn about money to do that. I think it takes not having money to realize that money does buy happiness. And, I
yeah.
came that direction. And so went into finance, didn't fall in love with it in college, but I stuck with it for a couple of years. And I ended up getting really lucky, getting my first job at JP Morgan Private Bank in 2008.
Wow.
Thanks.
Wow. In
2008.
2008. Yeah.
Yeah.
And frankly, that's where I fell in love with finance, which is funny. You
Yeah.
wouldn't know it because, banks were getting a really bad rap on the outside. And I was kind of an outsider on the inside. I felt like, what am I even doing? Like JP Morgan, are you kidding? I felt like an outsider. I felt like kind of an intruder. But what I saw was, you saw on the news, banks, blah, blah, blah. What I saw on the inside was totally different. It was strong
Mm,
leaders. We had a woman at the helm, Mary Erdos. We had advisors that were obsessive over putting clients first. They were patient with the markets. They didn't react emotionally when it felt like everything was crashing. We would have 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. meetings and we would come together and we would, we were pounding the table on clients getting into markets when it felt really scary. And, you know, they were right. And I think through that, I really did fall in love with finance. Fast forward a decade or so, went to business school, took an opportunity at JP Morgan, a little bit outside my comfort zone to do to help build out their robo advisor.
mm,
Um, and that's when I realized that, it felt like I was doing a little bit of candle making and the world was inventing electricity. And I wanted to be at the center of finance and technology, which is what the robo was.
yeah.
Um, but what it was missing, and we realized that pretty quickly, was the human in the middle of it, right? You didn't
Hmm.
have the JP Morgan advisors that were pounding the table when it was scary out there to get out of cash and stay in the markets and stay invested. And so robo advisors are great for so many people out there, but so many people need that
Yeah.
advisor in the middle. And in my move to GeoWealth, I think, JP Morgan had taken a minority investment in GeoWealth Series A, and I didn't know what a TAMP was when I first talked to Colin Falls. But I knew I wanted to work at this intersection with um, technology and finance. And I knew I wanted to work in a space where there were humans doing it. And so you have GeoWealth. We could talk a little bit more about what GeoWealth does. And, in
Yeah.
the 3 years I've been there, I have learned what a TAMP is. So, what Colin so well articulated to me when I was interviewing for this role is that GeoWealth really was uniquely positioned to deliver what advisors needed from a technology perspective. And then you had the RIA space, which was growing really quickly. And the RIAs were able to take the reins and maintain control and maintain access of the investments, but really deliver that to clients in a smart and seamless way. So yeah, that's how I ended up at GeoWealth about 3 years ago.
Wow.
Okay. Lots of follow-up questions. Elena, you go first. I know you're probably going to start with the log cabin.
I mean, I definitely want to know about the log cabin, where it was.
Yeah, how like was it a large property? How far
Yes.
was it secluded? Huge trees right outside your door? What?
Okay. So this wasn't like the log cabin that you guys are thinking of where your friends have a second house and it's out in the Poconos. No, this was like a log cabin and that was her home. It still exists. My mom's still there.
Wow.
I don't think she'll listen to this, but mom, if you're out there, she's probably listening from the cabin. My husband won't sleep in the beds in the cabin because every time you move the sheets down, there's like a moth or something creepy crawling all over the place. We did have electricity. We did have running water, all that good stuff. But the house was heated with a fire.
Wow.
And we maybe had an acre out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it was a good life.
Was it Eastern or Western Connecticut?
Outside New Haven.
Okay.
So I did grow up with really good pizza. There were, I had a great childhood. I was just very,
Yeah.
I didn't see what else was out there. Wouldn't change it for anything, but it definitely drove kind of where I am now,
Totally.
and what drives me now.
Yeah.
We go out to the cabin. My 4-year-old's gonna be sleeping out at the cabin on Saturday night, and I'm sending her out there with a heated blanket because I don't know if she
Yes.
knows, what cabin life is really like.
Totally.
So
Totally. I
cool.
can actually really relate, not that I grew up in a wood cabin, but definitely grew up outside the world of wealth and didn't have a lot growing up. And I think it's really impressive and like interesting when people come from that background and end up in this industry. And I don't know, I find voices like yours to be really important because you carry that experience.
Amen. So what made you decide on Penn State? And
Now the
well, I mean,
rivalry. Here we go.
yep. Yeah, seriously, why didn't you think of West Virginia? I mean, there's cabins all over West Virginia. I've been to Happy Valley, and it's a bunch of people driving around in their Beamers and whatever.
Yeah, well, and that's what I saw. So I'll tell you, I went to a football game. I had some Wawa's coffee on the way out there.
Cheers.
I mean, I had a sandwich. I had a little tailgate. I had myself a good time, and that's what I was looking for back then.
So you
Penn State
visited
was,
and you saw a game.
yeah,
Got
I
it.
saw cow, Wawa's, big game. And I got there and it's the energy and the people, and I was like, this is what college is supposed to be.
Yep.
Yes. I
And
feel like you just described the Penn State pipeline. Cow,
yes,
cow,
cow,
Wawa, game.
cow. 40,000 kids, just having a good time. And, it was a lot of well-rounded kids. It was an eye-opener for me. I got to spend, one semester in Barcelona when I was there. I finally got my passport, and, it was a great experience for me.
Love it.
While I don't like their football team, I am thankful for Saquon Barkley. And a couple of my best friends did go to Penn State. So I've been to Happy Valley, and I have had a good enough time there. So
It's the happiest.
I don't know about that.
True to its name.
So did you declare economics or finance as your major upon entering? Like you knew this is what you were going to do, or did you test waters?
No, I had no idea what I was going to do. I went to college and I thought maybe I might be a detective for a while, which maybe is how I
Oh,
got
cool.
to due diligence. Thought maybe I'd do journalism. Could
Yeah.
be over there with you guys. And then, yeah, again, it was just, I realized that so much of the world revolved around, like, I had to understand money. And
Yeah.
I thought maybe I would own my own business at one point. I still, maybe would.
Yeah.
But finance is going to help you no matter where you go. And it was more like I had this knowledge gap, and everything else felt like I could figure out. Finance, I felt like I had to learn,
Yeah. Totally.
Uh,
So when you graduated and you go to JP Morgan, were you ready? Did you understand the world of subprime debt, and did you understand the great financial crisis and all that was going on, or was it just like drinking from a fire hose, wondering like, is the world of finance in the US literally going to crumble? Like that had to have
Are
been a
we
thought in your
okay?
mind. Right,
yes.
right.
Um, it was, like I said, you had this dichotomy of the news was saying the world was falling apart. And then inside, there was such strength and confidence, and there wasn't this kind of emotional outburst that you saw in the media. It was, we would come in and we were working really hard and everyone kind of came together. I can't think of a place, a better way to learn.
Yeah.
I learned so much in my first few years there. We were given I was given the opportunity to sit on a due diligence and team and do a portfolio management role. Funny enough, it was 2009 and I was working on model portfolios. Believe it or not, we didn't know
Funny enough.
portfolios.
Mm.
And a big part of that was that we had so much cash still on the sidelines when we had clients that, they weren't ready to hand over all their money. And so we launched these thematic model portfolios where we delivered outcomes to clients that they could rely on. So it's kind of your first outcome based model portfolios that I saw.
Cool.
Um, and that, from a due diligence perspective, they have me cover ETFs because nobody really wanted to cover it. And it was this small and weird thing. And so, right time, right place. There were so many things that happened between 2008 to 2010 that, God, I was so lucky to be able to trudge into the office 5 days, 5 days a week. And, I try to remind my team, yes, I work from home, but like being in the office is so important
Yeah.
for this type of learning experience.
Totally.
Yeah, it was a whirlwind.
So
Yeah.
Elena is chatting with me to move it along, but I have one more. I have one more question
Yeah.
on the JP Morgan front, and yes, that is like kismet, model portfolios and ETFs,
I
right? Like,
know.
who would
Yeah,
have thought
right?
it because of where you are
Yeah.
now?
It's
Written in the
like the
stars.
universe gave me, you need a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work, right? And I
Totally.
think I
Yeah.
had that
Totally.
there.
While you were at the bank, um, so I'm a fanboy of Jamie Dimon. Like out of between him and Gorman, um, who else is there?
The whole
Names are
crew. Just
yeah. Well, I'm thinking
keep
of all the
going.
leaders of
Yeah.
the big wirehouses, right?
Yep.
Like he seems like the most. While he's a billionaire, I'm sure, but he seems like down to earth and real. Did you ever get a chance to meet him? Is he as cool
Yes.
as he comes across on TV?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wrote, I think in business school, I wrote one paper on an influential character. I mean, if you had asked me when I was 10 if I would have written an influential character of a bank, or even when I was 17, I would have been like, you're out of your mind. Jamie Dimon steered the ship again with that confidence and that he so smart, so down to earth. When I did this business school paper, I emailed him and asked if I could interview him.
Oh.
Did he respond or was it a
Yes.
EA?
And he not only responded, but I asked him for 10 minutes and he stayed with me for I think 2 hours.
Wow.
No way.
And
What a
yeah, I'll send
guy.
you the paper after this. And, he cares about the people that work for him. He cares about the clients. He cares about the country. Um, he's remarkable guy. And I think, following that, leadership at JP Morgan was really incredible to see.
That
It
is
helped my share price, and my personal PA. So
It's amazing.
yeah, Jamie.
Let's
that
go.
is awesome. What did you get on the paper?
I don't know, probably a C.
Don't
But
tell
an
him
A
that.
for effort,
No,
for
I got
sure.
an A. I got an
Come
A. How did
on.
you come in with I interviewed Jamie Dimon firsthand and not get an A? And I
That
worked. I
alone.
mean, you got to make that paper good, right? Because then I wanted to send it to him after. So I
Oh,
slaved
totally.
over that paper. Yeah. No, that was
So cool.
yeah.
Amazing. Well, I want to bring us into present day and talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about GeoWealth. Speaking of the kismet and the stars aligning of you landing there. And GeoWealth has recently announced two really exciting partnerships regarding its custom model portfolios and unified managed accounts, which I'd also love for you to tell us more about, with BlackRock and
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs Asset Management. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about these partnerships, their significance, and how it fits into, the GeoWealth ecosystem?
Yeah. Very excited to answer that
So
question. We've got a
exciting.
lot, and this one might take a while too.
Yeah, I'm
We
ready.
might only get to two questions on this podcast, but
Hey, we'll do our best.
to take a quick step back, in case Jimmy hasn't fully done his job and anyone on here for any reason doesn't know what GeoWealth is. I'm sure you do. We are a modern financial technology platform. We fall in the turnkey asset management platform space. Like I said, I didn't know what a TAMP was 3 years ago, so you may not know what that is, but we're specifically designed to help RIAs. And our whole purpose is helping RIAs scale their business, whether it's outsourcing technology, trading, operations, back office, middle office, billing, all that good stuff. And when I came over, my task was to really build out the investment platform. So when it comes to investments at GeoWealth, we have 4 pillars, and I am going to get to the answer of your question with my fourth pillar. So
I trust you.
first pillar is advisor managed models. And this, when you think about an RIA that broke away, they still want control. They still want to manage money, right? A lot of them born and raised managing money.
Yeah.
This is a huge part of our business and a bread and butter type of RIA for us. There's a spectrum of how much I, as the CIO, work with those RIAs and my team. Some of them, we build out their model portfolios. We build them custom models. We deliver that. Some of them have their own CIOs, their own CFA staff, and don't talk to us at all. So there's huge spectrum for how we work with advisor managed
Yeah.
RIAs. And then that's the first pillar. Second
Okay.
pillar is our model marketplace. So you mentioned this at the top. We've built out our model marketplace since I started. We had 10 managers. Now we have 80 plus.
Wow.
We had 50 models. Now we have 850 models. It's just incredible, the growth here. And it's really been driven by the growth in the industry that you've seen from models and this trend from managing advisors' own models to being like, okay, I'm not adding a lot of value here, or this is too time intensive for me. I need to be growing my business. So it's just another way that advisors can scale,
Yeah.
by turning the keys over and either fully outsourcing to a model portfolio manager like a JP Morgan, a Goldman, a BlackRock, a State Street, or building their own model of models, which means,
Gotcha.
and that's the UMA thing, right? So a UMA is just a model of models where you can combine a JP Morgan, a BlackRock, a State Street, a Goldman. So it allows them to kind of put their own stamp on it still and outsource the kind of stock picking and ETF picking.
Mm.
So that's pillar number 2. And we see that pillar growing in the industry. We see that pillar growing in general.
Yeah.
Number 3 is we manage our own models at GeoWealth. So we acquired a turnkey asset management platform called First Ascent out of Denver last year. And they brought with them about $2 billion in assets of model portfolios ETFs and mutual funds. Now they're all ETFs. So that's a big and growing part of our business as well. And then the partnership is bringing upon a whole new pillar. So this is custom model portfolios at scale. And that's what we're doing with BlackRock and Goldman. And further, I think we're removing the barriers to being able to do custom models at scale by implementing new tax capabilities, and more complex high net worth solutions delivered in a really easy to use, scalable way. And we can talk about what that looks like.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm really excited about is we've got this new fourth pillar. I think it's going to be where the industry goes. We've been trying to solve it since, Jen Wing back in 2009, is this ability to deliver custom portfolios at scale with really interesting high net worth types of investments inside it, which we can talk a little bit about.
You're talking about alternatives.
I'm talking about alternatives. I'm talking about semi-private alts, which we can talk about and why I'm so excited about that, but also direct indexing. I'll also explain what that is. Individual fixed income bonds within one portfolio. This is a podcast, so you guys can't see my hands, can you? Within one pie, one easy solution. So you don't even have to use the word UMA. It's a model portfolio. It's just that you've got interesting investments that we're now able to deliver inside of it. So BlackRock and Goldman are going to be doing this. It's the catalyst for us to be able to build a lot of the stuff we were building for our clients anyway. So everything I talk about in this partnership, what's so exciting for us is those three other pillars can also use everything we're building, right? So it's not, what we're building is not exclusive for anyone. It's, advisor managed model builders will be able to use semi-private alts in their models. They'll be able to use direct indexing. We'll be able to with our GeoWealth models, so it's rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, totally.
Everything we're building, which I'm very excited to tell you guys more about, is going to lift everything in our business. So it's kind of everything came together at the right time where we had partners that wanted to do this. We wanted to do this, and we had a really unique capability and tech stack that allows us to do it.
Totally.
Talk to us about why alternatives matter.
Yeah.
For they might not be right for the every man or every woman investor, but as you become more wealthy, they do deserve a spot within that pie.
Yeah.
And why is that?
I would argue, Jimmy, that the every man and woman investor, coming to a theater near you is private alt because they're easier to deliver now, and they're the alternatives and big asset managers are breaking down those barriers, and forgive my cliche, but democratizing investments. And so the reason I'm so excited about it, Jimmy, is that you really have a combination of advisors that are you've got the commercial and the investment that are coming together, right? So what that means is you've got advisors that are looking to differentiate their practice. So you've got the commercial side that's looking for it. You've got asset managers that know. But then what's exciting for me is you've got the opportunity set in the investment side that really adds value. So if you look at if you take a step back and you look at the industry, so take private equity, for example, the number of private companies over the past 20 years has grown substantially, and the number of public companies has detracted, has shrunk. If you look at global companies with revenue over $100 million, for example, I can't help myself, I love this stat. So all companies all over the world, $100 million in revenue and up, 14% are public, 1-4.
Wow.
And 86% are private.
Wow.
Like the industry because companies are staying private longer, or, they're not going public at all. You've seen IPOs shrink over the last couple of decades. So with semi-private alts, we'll talk about traditional private and semi-private, but semi-private is interesting because it's easier to get into. You don't have the capital calls and you don't have that waiting period to get invested. You can get invested. Some of these are quarterly subscriptions, for example, and you get this diversified source of returns. And when you add it to a 60-40 portfolio, for example, you can actually potentially compliance take your 60-40 portfolio and go up and to the left of the efficient frontier. So you're adding a diversified source of returns, and it's going to be an asset class you can't ignore because of the opportunity size there. And then you've got, again, just to loop it back around, you've got the advisors that are looking to differentiate their practice. It's really hard to differentiate in, your traditional model portfolios now. So, you're moving out, you're doing something different. And then you've got, it's not just private equity, right? It's private credit as well.
Yeah.
Being lenders come in. And so that provides you some yield, total return, but also a lot less default risk historically. So there's so many areas that you can tap into when you tap into this semi-private alt. And what's unique about GeoWealth here is the way that we've built so way back 3 years ago when I talked to Colin and he talked about the portfolio accounting, and, I didn't fully grasp it. What's unique about GeoWealth is because we've built all of our technology from the ground up, and it's been very purpose built. We've built our portfolio accounting system so that we can have sleeves here, right? So you've got your pie, and then you've got your sleeves in it, which is technically what makes it the UMA. But it really doesn't matter, right? It's a pie, it's a model, it's a portfolio, whatever you want to call it. What we can do is we can sleeve out something like a semi-private alt. So you can put your semi-private equity into a full baked model. You build the rest of the model around it, and we can help manage the liquidity. And we have the tools and the flexibility that your BlackRock or your Goldman, when they're doing their custom model portfolios, can do. And it's the same type of rationale for why we're going to be doing direct indexing individual equity securities with a tax overlay and individual fixed income all within the same model. So we've streamlined the ability to deliver models or UMAs with the semi-private alts in it. I think it's going to change the game for advisors that are able to get into this in our platform. So I've never been so excited in my career for something that's coming. I mean, I look at this and it's like, wow, we're really doing something special here. So, this is why I got into the industry to see. And so, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard you so excited since you were talking about hard-boiled eggs. So,
I do like a jammy hard-boiled egg as well as a private equity investment.
nice.
There's an analogy in there somewhere.
Do the semi-liquid alts, do they also include infrastructure, venture capital, or are you guys sticking to private credit, private equity?
So it goes across the spectrum. I would definitely see some infrastructure in there. We're leaning on the asset managers to get those asset classes into any semi-private alt that can be held at a custodian. So the world is going that way. I mean, you see it's going into ETFs for goodness sake, right? So they're gonna figure out ways to get everything into these semi-liquid vehicles. But yeah, no, there's much more than just private equity and private credit. We're happen to be starting there, but we're gonna pretty quickly expand.
The reason why I brought up venture capital is because of everything that you explained to us in terms of less and less public companies, more and more private companies. So wouldn't you want to be able to have a little bit of skin in that game on the VC front so that you're able to invest in the next Meta or NVIDIA, when they're infants?
Yeah, I mean that's probably for your more sophisticated client base, but yeah, I mean, I think this whole industry is going to move into getting increasing the liquidity profile and getting these investments all easier to access by um your common, Jimmy and Jen.
Yeah.
The new
One,
Jack and Jill.
there you go.
Jimmy and Jen. I like it. It's kind of good.
So wait, the one thing I also know, and our listeners might not about GeoWealth, is that so many of the folks there are former collegiate or professional athletes. What sports did you play growing up? I know that this probably should be in our second segment. Don't at me, Elena, but what do I need to know there?
I think I'm the first non-former athlete that GeoWealth. You walk in GeoWealth's office and
I feel like everybody's working out all the time, just like lifting
everyone's
weights
working
while they're
out
Working out
typing
from
on their
home.
keyboard.
and they're 100 feet tall. I mean, they are so tall. Talk about money buys happy. It doesn't buy height. Like no matter what kind of heels I have on, I can't get, you walk in that and you start to feel a little less powerful. I did do sports growing up. I don't have any fun, I don't have any trophies. I think I was on the lacrosse team and my senior year, my coach finally put me on varsity because all my friends were there. I wasn't, the hand-eye coordination is not my thing. I was a pretty good runner. And I guess that shows, perseverance and
Yeah.
determination. And so I guess, running would be my thing. And I think that does kind of show through my personality.
Definitely a
Perseverance.
transferable skill.
Yeah, investing for the long run. It's a It's a marathon, not a
Oh,
sprint. Come on.
All the analogies. I
yeah.
love it. Well, you just light up when you talk about all of that, Jen. It makes it, that much more exciting for those of us listening in too, to get excited with you guys. These partnerships are definitely something the industry should be looking out for. And what you
Yeah.
guys are building is truly unique and special. And we're excited to be a part of it as your PR partners. Um, from
Thank you.
following your work, though, we also know that supporting women in financial services and getting women more exposure in this industry is something that's near and dear to your heart. So, would love to hear, in your opinion, what are some of the best ways to affect change in that area, and what can firms do to uplift women in finance?
Thank you for asking me that question.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's not that complicated. I think you have to promote women. You don't see too many women CIOs and CTOs. I think there was a time, pre-COVID where the world and many companies started kind of promoting women that weren't ready or weren't set up for success. And I think we saw that and we kind of, and now feels like a better time to do
Yeah.
it again, right? Because you're promoting women without having structural change that allows them to succeed wasn't going to work. And I think in this time post-COVID era, a lot of those structural challenges that, the playing fields have been evened out a bit
Mm-hmm.
because we have hybrid work arrangements. We do have remote arrangements. And so there was a time there where it was like you could promote women, but they weren't set up for success, right? And I think about women my age, or maybe my age doesn't matter, I'm 38, but like women with small children, I've got an 18-month-old and a 4-year-old. And if I didn't have some sort of hybrid remote
Totally.
work option, would I be here? No idea. But then when you think about it, like I'm a career person, right? I love working. And so
Yeah.
I don't want to miss my kids for the rest of my life, but I might have had to take a step back out of work for a few years. But
Right.
these structural changes have allowed that I can do this for a while. And sleep is something that we don't come by enough, but like I can do both. And then, the kids get older and I haven't left the workforce. So it allows me to stay at the helm, to continue to grow. And so, you got to bring in women at as junior talent, but nobody can get top talent women to come to your firm and to outperform and to stay at your firm like having women in leadership. So you've
Yeah.
got to get, and I think structural changes in the world post-COVID have helped this.
Yeah.
And I'm on the executive committee at GeoWealth, and I'm not the only woman on the executive committee at GeoWealth. And I know for a fact that this instills confidence in women at the firm that know that there's
Yes.
somebody sitting at the table that knows what they need and that, frankly, has kids and a
Yeah.
family. And I can say personally understands fertility issues and what women need there. And the fact that women are delaying having kids and then it's harder and they're freezing eggs and they're having miscarriages and they're having all these issues, like having someone at the table that understands that and being able to allow women to have a little bit more flexibility or hybrid to get through this really hard period.
Yeah.
And frankly, my husband also has a flexible work arrangement. So it's not just women, but it's like he's
Whole
able
family.
he's able to come home so I can go to Chicago for an offsite. And so it's the whole family. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like this post-COVID era. And like I said, I really believe in going to the office. So there's always kind of that like young people, I'm hiring young people to be in the office because I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have that.
Totally.
If, for a few years we could take this period where we could do a little bit of both, you know, that's going to be win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
And so it feels like now is the time to like promote women, get them at the table. They're more set up for success. They have better structural. We have a long way to go in this country, but I think from an individual company perspective, like what GeoWealth is doing,
Yeah.
it's really incredible. We have a pumping room that I could tell you whether anybody's pumping or not at the company and we're never closing down that room, right?
Yeah.
Nobody uses it. It doesn't matter if we're overflowing office space. That room is there,
Yeah.
right? And so it's been really incredible to see these small things and the
Yeah.
things at the executive committee. And I believe it pays off in
Totally.
days over the long run.
Yeah, something as simple as having that room creates so much inclusion for someone that then doesn't have to go home or be ashamed of it just eases so many logistics that people don't think about as barriers to success.
Yeah, and you think small companies can't do this, and they can, right?
Totally.
You just
Yeah,
put the room and nobody goes in there. And, I could tell you there's some senior executives that would probably give up their office before we gave up that room. And,
very sweet.
having us around the table and having, this inclusion and we've got a ton of women in our office, and I can tell you, I go and I make it a point when I go into town, I sit down with all of them and I make sure our executive committee is thinking about these issues that they're grappling with, and it's going to make me at GeoWealth more successful over time.
100%.
I remember when Carissa was pumping for our daughters, Daphne and Olivia. She had to do it in her office and make sure her office door was locked. And I remember a story about one time someone barged in. Thank God
Uh,
it was a female, but
yeah,
like
It's
you're
not
spot
pretty.
on. And I don't want this to sound Pollyanna-ish, but my daughters, 12 and 10, they're going to listen to this podcast when they're at the right appropriate age, because everything that you just shared as a girl dad 3 times over, they
yeah,
need to hear.
100%.
I can't wait to talk to them, Jimmy.
Oh, you will love them. They're so cute and fun.
Great names too. What
Right?
Cassidy, Olivia, and Daphne.
very
Love.
cute.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that, Jen. I think, like Jimmy said, that's really important for people to hear. I'm going to move us along into our play segment because I know we don't have you for very much longer, which is a little bit pseudo rapid fire. So I know you mentioned you might be a detective if you weren't in wealth management, but our first question is, what would you be doing if you weren't working at GeoWealth right now?
I'd be a chef.
Oh.
Just kidding. If my husband, I can't cook.
You're having podcasts for lunch, so that might not be a good start.
I'm having a podcast for lunch and boiled eggs for breakfast. Um, you know, it's so stupid, but this is my dream job. I don't know if Colin listens to this, but I told him that 3 years ago, and I I feel like this is what I was meant to do. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I did want to be a detective, but due diligence is a little bit of detective work.
absolutely.
Um, I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was 8, but I wrote this whole letter. Oh my God, I'll send you the letter after this podcast. It was all about the
Please.
they're gonna pay me. I was like, I'll work extra hours if you'll pay me extra pay. So I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know so I've always been me. I don't know. This is what I was meant to do right now. I would love to own my own business one day. But right
There's
now
still time.
it's too exciting right now.
Yeah.
So
Your excitement is palpable. Um, in the best way, in the best way. What's your favorite thing to do for fun?
I like to be with my family.
Yeah.
Um, I like to laugh, and I have a very funny family, and we just, joke all the time. I'm setting up for our Secret Santa gift exchange, but really nothing makes me
Ooh.
happier than seeing my 18-month-old and my 4-year-old are starting to play together, and then they play with their cousins and very close with my family, and I feel like I have it made with that. I mean, that's the dream for me. I like to give back time, money. I grew up, I even when I had no money, my dad always took me to soup kitchens to help people that had less money. And I that's a big part of my life, and I frankly selfishly find it very fulfilling
Yeah,
to give
I
back.
bet.
So I'll it's always a big part of my life. I hope to instill it in my children, and yeah, it's not the most exciting, but family and giving back, that's my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's important. We love to close the show with a moment of gratitude and just give you the opportunity to shout out someone in the industry, someone in your life, who you admire, and just say something nice about someone who may or may not be listening.
I love that. I have two because I was prepared.
Absolutely allowed.
The first person will not be listening because she's not going to be listening, but I'll send it to her. Jamie Kramer, a woman from JP Morgan. Jamie first hired me into my first due diligence portfolio management role, so my first investment role at GeoWealth at JP Morgan in 2009. She was not only my mentor and my sponsor, which you need both of, but she did something I don't think like she stuck her own neck out for me. She would go to bat for me, even if it took her down. And I just don't know. She had that much faith and belief in me when I was 23 years old. And, without the family understanding what industry I was in, I just don't know where I would be without that. So it's Jamie Kramer, and I couldn't frankly thank her enough for being that support. And then the other group, I'm going to do a group here. I cannot name their names because they are clients. But we have, you're not going to be surprised at this one, some female-led
Yes.
RIAs and some full female teams of advisors at GeoWealth. They are some of the most talented, detail-oriented, caring, empathetic, fastest growing firms on our platform, and it's no surprise. So if anyone's looking for a female advisor, please reach out to me. But they have inspired me to keep doing my job and to see, the industry needs financial advisors just like it needs, executives. And so I'm thankful that they're out there doing that work for us.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, and we need more women advisors, so more women seek financial guidance because I think that can be a part of the equation as well.
Yep. And so it's been amazing to see, some of the women-led groups growing. And I think it's just getting started.
Yeah,
Women need to see more women in those roles. So
definitely.
um, we're always looking for them.
Well, you are a powerhouse woman. We are so glad you took the hour with us this morning. Thank you so much, Jen, for joining the show. To our listeners, we hope that you learned something new and enjoyed hearing Jen's incredible story. And be sure to write us via email at pressplay@streetcredpr.com to tell us what you think, ask us any questions, suggest any guests, or even just to tell us what you had for breakfast lunch today. Thanks again for tuning in, and we can't wait to introduce you to our next guest. Bye.